Welcome to Sweatpants to Suits, the podcast where we dive into the journeys of career professionals, uncovering the secrets to transforming from sweatpants mode to suits success. Join us as we explore personal stories, insights, and strategies for cultivating a growth mindset and achieving your vision of success. I'm your host, Jerry. Are you ready to up your game? Let's dive in. Today, we have a very special guest, Sandra Savage. Sandra is what I like to call an overachiever. She worked in an executive position at Adobe, met with many luminaires in high tech, and even presented on stage with Steve Jobs. She became an executive chef and restaurant owner who served the Prime Minister of Japan while employed at Facebook. She is a prolific presenter in the biggest public speaking community, Toastmasters. Please, Sandra, we're curious to know how your professional journey began.
Thank you, first of all, Jerry, for having me on your show. When I was 17 and had graduated from high school, vocational school was free. And so I took the opportunity to go to an 18-month class on graphic design. Now, most of my friends went to college, but I chose a profession that I had passion for. So I learned how to do the full printing tasks everywhere from design to keyboard layout, printing, screen press, the whole gamut of work. And that led to my future at Adobe.
Wow, that's a unique story. I'm curious, and the audience are, what are some perks that you enjoyed working at Adobe?
I was so glad that I began working at Adobe in 1988. And I was part of a small group that was very team-oriented, and we shared a lot of ideas back and forth. I would go out and meet with customers, find out what their requirements were, come back and spend till 2 a.m. with the engineers talking about solutions. I was never turned away for having an idea or asking a question. And I think that was the thing that really was not only a perk, but it led to a future of being curious and feeling comfortable to ask questions of others.
Is it at Adobe that you first met Steve Jobs and you were able to help him in the creative graphic designs?
Well, actually, I had met and worked with Steve Jobs in 3 different times of his life. The first time I met him was when he was still at Apple. The second time I got to know him was when he and Ross Perot invented the next computer. Adobe was one of the very first software companies to port their significant software to his platform. And so he was very anxious to have us come and present with the cachet of the Adobe name and brand and reputation as a company that endorsed his new computer platform.
Seems like you have a very colorful career in tech. Do you mind sharing to our audiences what are some tips and tricks when applying for a job?
You know, it's surprising to me how many people don't have questions to ask the person that they are being interviewed by. Remember, it's a two-way street. You're looking to get a job with them, but you're also a hot commodity. You should be able to ask questions, show that you've done your research, and ask questions that are pertinent to you and why you would want to work for them. So ask questions.
Ask questions. When you moved away from tech to the food industry, did your graphic design skills help you with the food presentation?
Yes and no. When the .com imploded, there was an influx of just too many people in the industry. So I decided it was finally my time to walk across the stage and receive a diploma. I went to the California Culinary Academy. And after a year, I graduated and quickly used all my background in management to help me go from a line cook to a sous chef to an executive chef in 2 years. Because I had a background in graphic design and as a writer, I also know that the first bite that you take with food is with your eyes. But before that, you have to hear it. You have to be able to taste that food in your mouth as you're looking at the menu. So it's a lot in how you write the description as well. But graphic design definitely has helped me not only in plating and food styling, but also in designing logos for the restaurant I eventually owned.
Wow. So your skills basically compound to help your end result.
Yes, yes. And at the time I didn't realize it as much. I think what I took with me from job to job to job was my curiosity, my, what would you call it? Work ethic and interest in something. I would get so excited about something I couldn't sleep. I'd just keep, playing with it. And, don't get me started talking about food because I love food. But having an interest and a passion and knowing what you want out of your life and being flexible to roll with the punches, I think is really key. I think I would owe all of my success to curiosity, asking questions, and finding creative solutions. And as a chef, that's where we can really shine is food has so much versatility. Apply that to any other occupation, you can do it. But there's so much versatility. There's no one way to do anything. Try things out. Don't give up. It's more important to have a goal than the intelligence to just think you know how to fix it. Just keep trying.
Wow. Motivational words. So everybody was in the dark at one point. But how was the story that you first became a graphic designer to serving the Prime Minister of Japan get unfolded?
Well, it all happened in an elevator to begin with. When I started working at Facebook, I was the director of culinary services. And at the time, Facebook was buying all of their high-level catering from outside companies because they didn't want just the cafe food. So I was brought on to come up with creative solutions and proposals to bring that budget back in-house. I happened to jump in an elevator with Zuckerberg. And in that short ride up one, maybe 2 flights of his new executive headquarters, I said to him, you know what? I know you're spending a lot of money on the outside for your catering. What if I bring up lunch to your desk next week with like 20, 30 different things for you to try? You give me a thumbs up, no pun intended, or thumbs down on the food you'd like to have us offer to your executives. And so we developed together with Mark Zuckerberg the executive dining menu. I did the graphic design on it. I wrote out all the recipes, priced them out, was able to keep everything under budget. I got to hire some great chefs as a result of the money I saved. And I elevated the, no pun intended again, elevated the culinary services at Facebook. However, I have to tell you, I was a little intimidated when I found out that I was going to be serving the Prime Minister of Japan. First of all, because I'm a firstborn Virgo from Minnesota. What do I know about Japanese food? But I knew that I could not do it and that I got creative. And I brought in 2 lovely women from a Japanese restaurant, and they served tea to the Prime Minister under my guidance.
Wow. So we went from Steve Jobs to Zuckerberg to the Prime Minister of Japan. I'm curious, what kind of food did Zuckerberg eat? Were some of the Facebook employees' favorites?
One of the things I appreciated the most about Mark Zuckerberg is he didn't put on any airs. he did put on a clean t-shirt every day, but he didn't put on any airs. And he had his office, but he also had his cubicle, and he spent most of his time working in his cubicle. He ate the food everyone else ate on campus. So he didn't expect to be treated any differently. But for his executives, we knew we had to impress them. So we brought in local, organic, sustainable food that was healthy, had a lot of flavor, didn't weigh down the brain or the gut. And he was proud to say that this is the kind of food that they offer to their employees at Facebook, along with all the other perks that were there, like a barber shop and a spa and the arcade for video games. It was a fun place to work. But everybody was out in the open. They worked together. It was a very collaborative environment, and I thrived there.
Wow. So organic is a key word in Facebook cafeteria.
Healthy.
Healthy it is. What are some advice would you like to give to all the chefs out there?
Well, the one they always give us in school is taste your food, but be curious. I'm going to go back to that word. Be curious. Try new things. Don't think that there's only one way to make a certain dish. Try things out. You never know what you're going to create. And some of the craziest situations actually got me in to be interviewed for the second season of Top Chef. They loved all the challenges that I had to cook. Like when I worked over in Redwood City next computer, I didn't have gas. So I had to cook with electric burners or outside on the patio on a grill. And I got really creative on making hollandaise sauce in the blender. So be curious, find innovative ways to tackle a problem. Don't look for a problem, but be curious and find new ways to do it. And that's what keeps you young, keeps you enjoying life, and makes you a joy to be around as well.
Be curious. Was curiosity also one of the reasons you got involved with Toastmasters?
Oh, no, Jerry. Let me bring back my Minnesota accent. I was told at Adobe, after I'd already been traveling around the world and on stage, that I had to lose my Minnesota accent. And the way I did that, we brought in a Toastmasters club into Adobe to give us a demo meeting. And they showed us what we could learn. And the president asked me to start a Toastmasters club specifically for the engineers, because the engineers were meeting with the luminaries, but were having difficulties answering questions or being confident with their answers. So I was asked to start up a Toastmasters club. I learned so much from the other Toastmasters as I've gone through the last 34 years. And the number one thing that I really love about Toastmasters is the sharing, working with people, getting those secret tips, like you can't talk to your nose, talk through your nose when you talk to your toes. And that's how I got rid of my Minnesota accent. Or understanding that when you get up to speak, everybody wants you to succeed. It's up to you to ruin it. So don't. And when you are speaking, should be also listening. And that was the hardest one for me to understand, because I was doing all the talking. How could I be listening? But just like you're doing right now, you're shaking and nodding your head and smiling. That's what we look for to see if we are connecting and keeping our audience with us throughout our message. So it's the sharing of information, the ability to practice a speech as many times as you need to in a Toastmasters club before you get in front of Steve Jobs, Ross Perot, or wherever you find yourselves. You'll be confident with your Toastmasters experience to be able to get up and say what's important to you.
Do you know any times if Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg popped in to say hello in a Toastmaster meeting?
I bet Mark Zuckerberg would. Unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity with Steve Jobs. I did get an opportunity to shake hands with him shortly before he left this planet. But Zuckerberg, I bet he'd go to a Toastmaster meeting and just say hi. He always made time for people. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about him, is that he didn't put on airs. He was approachable. He was working alongside of us. We weren't working for him. We were working together.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for being very approachable today. And thank you for all your colorful lessons and life experiences that you can provide to all the audiences around the world. For today, we would like to give a special thank you to you. And thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jerry.